Part 27. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuanchi. Chapter 262. Vivian and Cade, who followed, were choked and covered their mouths and noses with one hand, and coughed several times with the other hand before they felt better. When the dust and smell dissipated, the three of them leaned forward to look into the coffin. When Cade saw that there was only a corpse that had turned into dry bones and a cane like a dead tree in the coffin, he couldn't help but complain in disappointment. "This is the scepter we have been trying so hard to find. Are you kidding me? Isn't this just a dead tree?" As he was about to lean forward to pick up the scepter from the corpse, Yejuju grabbed him and shook his head and said, "No, this is the scepter. But in the hands of ordinary people, it is just a dead tree. Only in the hands of Merlin or Merlin's descendants, it is the real scepter." After that, Yejuju pulled Cade away, leaned forward to pick up the scepter, and stuffed it into the hands of Vivian, who was still a little dazed. Then, something magical happened. The scepter, which was originally a dead tree, changed rapidly in Vivian's hand at a speed visible to the naked eye. Starting from the place where she shook hands, the metallic luster quickly covered the scepter, until it finally completely turned into a metal scepter like the one in the play, emitting a dazzling light. This scene made Cade stunned, and he couldn't help but reach out to touch the badge that was wrapped around his arm. Thinking, this knight badge wouldn't have any extraordinary abilities. At this moment, a shout came from behind several people. "Don't move, raise your hands, and hand over what you have in your hands, otherwise we will shoot." At the same time, because the scepter was activated, the knights who had been sleeping for many years and guarding the scepter also woke up one after another. Among the people present, only Yejuju, who had a keen hearing, heard the click sound made by the knights when they woke up. Knowing that the knights had woken up, Yejuju was in no mood to talk nonsense with the soldiers of the reaction team. At the moment when the soldiers had no time to react, his body moved violently. At twice the speed of sound, after flying around the soldiers, they were all disarmed. Looking down at his empty hands, William stared at Yejuju with a dark face and threatened, "Do you know what you are doing?" Shrugging, Yejuju said indifferently, "Of course I know what I am doing. Instead, it is you." After speaking, he pointed at the soldiers who looked at a loss and disbelief, and continued, "You have known about the huge metal horns that appeared in 6 places, including West Africa, Namibia, Northern China, and Jordan, right?" Upon hearing this, William's face really changed, and he became serious and looked at Yejuju, waiting for Yejuju to continue. "That is not a natural wonder, nor is it a man-made thing, but the coordinates left by Cybertron on Earth to absorb the energy of the Earth. I guess you have also discovered through satellites and other means that a huge planet is approaching the Earth, right?" Hearing this, William's face became more and more ugly, but he had to admit that what Yejuju said was what had already happened, so he nodded awkwardly. Seeing this, Yejuju also nodded and continued, "That planet is Cybertron, and the one who controls it to fly to the Earth is the current controller of Cybertron, the creator of the Autobots and Decepticons, Quintessa. His purpose of coming to Earth is very simple, to absorb the energy of the Earth, restore the planet Cybertron, and turn the Earth into a dead star from now on." After that, Yejuju said no more, leaving a sentence. "Now, you know who our common enemy is, right?" After that, Yejuju had passed the crowd and greeted the Knights King Kong who had woken up and were surrounding the crowd. Everyone was still a little confused when they heard heavy footsteps. When they turned around, they saw Yejuju fighting with several tall Transformers. William's expression changed several times. After looking at each other with the team members, they walked forward, picked up the weapons on the ground and went forward to help Yejuju deal with these Transformers. However, Yejuju, who could still pay attention to several people while fighting, stopped him and said, "Don't do it, they are the Night Kongs guarding the scepter, not our enemies, On the contrary, like the Autobots, they are our allies against Quintessa and Decepticons. It's just that they have just woken up and their minds are still a little confused. After saying that, Yejuju easily dodged the giant sword swung down by the knight and continued to shout loudly. "Dear Knight Kongs, we are here to protect the scepter from being taken away by Quintessa just like you. You can also look at the girl holding the scepter. She is none other than the descendant of Merlin, otherwise she would not be able to activate the scepter." Hearing this, Vivian raised the scepter in his hand very tactfully and shouted loudly. "Yes, I am the direct descendant of Merlin. Look." Hearing this, several Kongs looked back at Vivian, and only paused for a moment to continue to besiege Yejuju. Yejuju dodged the giant sword of Knight King Kong again and continued to shout. "Also, the contract you signed with the 12 Knights, when the human knight with the Knight's badge appears, you will unconditionally help us humans, you won't forget it, right?" After saying that, he dodged the giant sword again and shouted loudly again. "Cade, concentrate, activate the Knight's badge on your body, and imagine turning it into a sword." Hearing this, Cade couldn't help pointing to his nose in shock and said, "I." The expression on his face was that he had seen a ghost. Finally, under Vivian's glare, she muttered, "Okay." Stretched out his hands to hold a sword, and tried hard to activate the Knight's badge. Unfortunately, after several attempts, Cade still failed to fully activate the Knight's badge. At this moment, a huge figure quickly landed from the top of the spacecraft. He landed with a clang and reached out his hand unceremoniously towards Vivian, who was holding the scepter. Cade, who was standing next to Vivian, subconsciously wanted to defend Vivian. In a hurry, the badge was somehow activated. It slipped from his arm to his hand, and in the blink of an eye it turned into a knight's two-handed sword, which struck the visitor's arm with a clang. It was only then that everyone could clearly see the appearance of the person coming, who else but Optimus Prime. "Optimus Prime, why is it you? What are you going to do? Why grab the scepter?" The exclamations came from Cade and William almost at the same time. Yejuju hurriedly shouted. "The Optimus Prime of today is no longer the Optimus Prime of the past, he has been brainwashed and controlled by Quintessa. If you don't believe it, you can look into his eyes." After hearing this, everyone looked up and saw that Optimus Prime's eyes were a strange purple color, not the original blue. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 263. Hot Recommendation. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This scene made everyone scream with an ah. However, Optimus Prime took this opportunity to push away the Knight Sword in Cade's hand, and then snatched the scepter from Vivian's hand. The next moment, Optimus Prime flew over the spaceship. The scepter immediately started the spaceship and quickly floated to the sea surface. It took only 1 or 2 minutes to completely float out of the sea after a distance of several hundred meters. Yejuju also took advantage of this time to catch up with Optimus Prime and grabbed the right foot of Optimus Prime, who wanted to continue flying away. He pulled and swung down vigorously, and unexpectedly threw Optimus Prime's huge body heavily onto the deck of the spaceship, splashing a large area of sea water and making a loud clang sound. This was a bit beyond Yejuju's expectation. He didn't expect that he could just gently pull and throw the leader-level Optimus Prime down. You know, the strength of the leader-level Transformers is not as simple as it seems. Just look at the movie. In the last battle, Optimus Prime chopped off the heads of 5 Decepticons with a sword. You can imagine it. So, how to convert this combat power? Leaders like Optimus Prime and Megatron have more power, not to mention 2 or 3 tons of power, right? And Yejuju can easily throw Optimus Prime down. So how strong is Yejuju? Yejuju's current strength data is 15 points, which is 1,500 kilograms of strength, and it is about 3,000 kilograms when it explodes. What is the reason for being able to throw down Optimus Prime, who is about the same strength as him? It's very simple. He forgot to calculate that the armor can also provide him with additional strength bonus. Although the system did not clearly indicate it, Yejuju's strength did increase after wearing the armor. Not to mention doubling, it has at least increased by 50%. That is to say, when Yejuju bursts out with all his strength is at least 4,500 kilograms. This is also the reason why Yejuju can easily swing Optimus Prime. Of course, this strength is not compared with Thanos wearing gloves and collecting 6 gems. Even compared with the Transformers who can combine in the Transformers world, it is too much worse. This will appear in the subsequent battles, so I won't go into details here. Besides, Yejuju also landed after throwing Optimus Prime off the deck. Without saying anything, Yejuju started fighting with Optimus Prime. Don't say it, although Optimus Prime is the leader of the Autobots and has been fighting with the Decepticons for a long time, he is naturally not weak in fighting, reaction, and speed. Unfortunately, compared with Yejuju, who has the skills of an intermediate combat master and super abnormal physical fitness, it is a bit lacking. 69shux.com. Not to mention, although Yejuju is not as tall as Optimus Prime, his strength is much stronger. Even without weapons, he can completely crush Optimus Prime to the ground. When everyone finally stood on the deck, they saw the funny scene of Yejuju fighting a giant like a child. But the strange thing is that Yejuju, a child, beat the giant back and almost had no power to fight back. Just when everyone was amazed at Yejuju's strength and had the mentality of watching the show, the roar of the engine came from the sky in the distance. Then a fighter jet fell from the sky and hovered urgently 3 meters away from the deck. It transformed in the air with a buzzing sound, landed and took the scepter from Optimus Prime. The next moment it took off again and turned into a fighter jet and flew high into the sky. Yejuju naturally knew that it was Megatron who came, and subconsciously did not want Megatron to take away the scepter, so he jumped up and wanted to catch up with Megatron and take the scepter. Unexpectedly, Optimus Prime climbed up from the deck, stretched out his hands and grabbed Yejuju's left foot, who was not on guard behind him. Without waiting for Yejuju to react, he pulled Yejuju to spin in the air for a few circles, and then threw Yejuju out fiercely. Fortunately, Yejuju's armor was powerful. After being thrown out for 100 meters, he turned dozens of somersaults in succession, and still stopped steadily in the air with the help of the thrusters. Unfortunately, when Yejuju looked up at the sky again, Megatron had long disappeared in front of everyone. In the sky, a conspicuous huge sphere appeared in the sky, and the tattered and riddled appearance made Yejuju know immediately. At this time, the planet Cybertron had entered the atmosphere. Knowing that it would inevitably lead to a big battle if he chased after them, it would be better to stay and solve the trouble of Optimus Prime first. Yejuju shook his head slightly angrily and flew towards Optimus Prime, who was then surrounded by 5 Night Kongs. At this time, Optimus Prime was very sadly surrounded and beaten by 5 Night Kongs. Although Optimus Prime could still barely cope with it, Yejuju knew that if he did not stop it, Optimus Prime might be killed by several Night Kongs. Yejuju did not want to lose the experience he had, so after flying into the circle, Yejuju stopped the attack of 2 Kongs. Unexpectedly, Yejuju kindly wanted to save Optimus Prime, but Optimus Prime identified him as a mortal enemy and even tried to sneak attack Yejuju from behind. Okay. Yejuju completely became a punching bag, caught between Optimus Prime and Night Kong, and became the common enemy of both. Depressed. Extremely depressed. Yejuju was so depressed that he wanted to kill the Night Kong and Optimus Prime who were besieging him. In the end, for the sake of future experience, he endured it. There was no way, he couldn't kill them, so he could only persuade a few Night Kongs first. During the battle, Yejuju explained loudly. Knights, you have been away from Cybertron for a long time, so long that you don't know what happened. After you fell asleep, the 7 elders of Cybertron also came to Earth and finally died on Earth. Only Quintessa returned to Cybertron. She created the Autobots and Decepticons, which are now the opposing forces of the Autobots and Decepticons. Compared to the Decepticons, the Autobots are the same as you, and they have good intentions towards the humans on Earth. They are also helping us to resist the invasion of the Decepticons and protect the Earth from being destroyed by Cybertron. And Optimus Prime is the current leader of the Autobots, and we can't let him die in your hands. What's more, you should have seen that Optimus Prime was brainwashed and controlled by Quintessa. Everything he did was not his own will. Can you let him go? No, he took the scepter and brought disaster to the Earth and mankind, and he will pay the price for it. During the fight, a Night King Kong spoke. Obviously, they have completely regained consciousness. Although they will not kill Yejuju, they also do not intend to let Optimus Prime go. This can be seen from the fact that they did not kill Yejuju again. This made Yejuju very depressed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 264. Hot recommendation. He wanted to wake up Optimus Prime first, regardless of the number of Night Kongs, but it was a pity. Google search reading. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Night Kong wanted to kill Optimus Prime, so why didn't he stop him first? So, Yejuju was caught in a dilemma again. There was no way. Facing the attacks of the Night Kongs, he could only resist but not use heavy hands. And facing Optimus Prime's desperate attack, he could only defend but not use heavy hands. Even if he just knocked Optimus Prime down, he couldn't do it. Because if Optimus Prime was knocked down, he didn't know which Night Kong would chop off his head in the next second. Just when Yejuju was in a dilemma, a yellow figure fell from the sky again. It was Bumblebee who got the news and rushed over. Seeing Optimus Prime attacking Yejuju crazily, several ancient Kongs were rushing to kill Optimus Prime, and Yejuju, who had met him in the abandoned town before, not only had to guard against Optimus Prime's attack, but also had to help Optimus Prime resist the attack. Bumblebee felt that he couldn't understand, raised his hand and scratched his head, and heard Cade shouting. Bumblebee, you came at the right time. Look at Optimus Prime, he was brainwashed by that Quintessa, not only helped the Decepticons to take the scepter, but also wanted to kill Yet. Night Kong wanted to kill him because he helped the Decepticons, and Ye was helping him resist. Hearing this, although he still didn't understand the specific events, he roughly understood the meaning. In short, Optimus Prime was brainwashed, and Night Kong wanted to kill Optimus Prime. Thinking of this, Bumblebee immediately joined the battle and stopped Optimus Prime. Yejuju then freed his hands and stopped the 5 Night Kongs. Suddenly, the circle was divided into 2 parts. In one part, Yejuju easily intercepted the breakthrough of the 5 Knights. On the other side, Bumblebee and Optimus Prime were slightly crushed. Of course, it was only Bumblebee who was crushed. There was no way. Although Bumblebee's strength was already very strong, it was still far behind the leader-level Optimus Prime. During the battle, Bumblebee finally spoke. Optimus Prime, don't you recognize me? I am Bumblebee, your closest comrade and friend. Wake up quickly. Hearing this familiar and nostalgic voice, Optimus Prime paused for a moment, and the blue and purple lights in his eyes flashed alternately. In the end, the purple light regained the upper hand and drove away the blue light. While Yejuju was fighting, he had time to watch Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. Originally, I thought that, just like in the movie, Optimus Prime would wake up completely after hearing Bumblebee's voice. But he was disappointed to find that although it had a little effect, it did not completely wake up Optimus Prime. Then Yejuju thought with annoyance. Sure enough, this is a bug in the movie. How could Optimus Prime, who had been brainwashed by Quintessa for several days and nights, wake up so easily with just one word from Bumblebee? This is too much of a disregard for Quintessa's brainwashing control ability, right? After all, it is the biggest villain boss, and breaking the attack with just one word, isn't it too childish? Thinking of this, Yejuju decided to do it himself and wake up Optimus Prime faster. So, Yejuju used all his skills and instantly released 2 werewolves, blue and red clothes, and 10 liquid robots from the space. Finally, it was his most anticipated mount, Transformers, and chasing wind. Not to mention the released werewolf and red and blue clothes, there are still 10 liquid robots. After all, no matter how powerful they are, their size is there, and they will not bring any shocking feeling to the people who are used to seeing huge Transformers. But the appearance of the Mount Zufeng is a bit cool. After Zufeng was released from the space, he throttled with a boom and rushed into the air in a way that violated the rules of physics. The car made a voice in the air. Zufeng, I am happy to serve you, my master. After the voice fell, it transformed in the air with a buzzing, and caca and turned into a robot that was slightly shorter than Bumblebee. The body shape is more symmetrical than all Transformers, which seems to be extraordinary. The overall black style gives people a very sharp feeling. After landing, he rolled forward in front of a Night King Kong, and a 2-meter-long giant sword in the style of the Chinese Tang sword appeared in his hand. With a sound of clang, he easily blocked the giant sword that was slashing down, and with a more flexible posture than humans, he lowered his body and swept the King Kong to the ground with a sweeping kick. He stood up and rushed into another Night King Kong, blocking with a knife and punching with a sneak attack, and his movements were incredibly smooth. He was not at all like the rough and simple fighting of the Transformers, which surprised Yejuju. Even the crowd was stunned. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would not believe that there were Transformers that were so flexible and powerful, just like the martial artists in Chinese stories. In short, Zufeng's appearance immediately amazed the whole audience, and even surpassed Yejuju, the master. Yejuju really didn't expect that Zufeng's fighting ability would be so strong, and watching him fight actually gave him a strange sense of familiarity. The next second, Yejuju reacted. Zufeng's fighting skills are almost the same as his own. The difference is nothing more than physical and visual differences. This had to make Yejuju sigh at the power of the system. Emotions are given to Transformers through system fusion. What they inherit is their favorite style and fighting skills. Seeing Zufeng and the mechanical creatures intercepting the 5 Night King Kongs, Yejuju turned around without hesitation and joined the battle group of Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. With the addition of Yejuju, Optimus Prime was no longer able to resist. After only 2 back and forths, Yejuju pressed his neck and put him down on the deck like a chicken. Bumblebee also took the opportunity to pounce on him and pinned Optimus Prime to the deck. Yejuju squatted down and hit Optimus Prime's head with a few bang-bang punches. He hit Optimus Prime's head hard several times, and the force was so great that even his purple-eyed boy looked a little gloomy. Bumblebee watched Yejuju punch Optimus Prime on the head, and couldn't help asking worriedly, "Yeah, will you kill Optimus Prime if you do this?" Rolling his eyes, Yejuju continued to beat Optimus Prime with his fists angrily and said, "He has been brainwashed. How can we wake him up without hitting him on the head? Besides, don't be idle either. He is sensitive to your voice. Please cooperate with me in talking to him. I hope I can wake him up as soon as possible." But in my heart I could not complain. Are you robots? The brain is an iron guy, is it that fragile? Hearing this, Bumblebee understood and nodded while calling Optimus Prime loudly, telling him about their experience fighting on Cybertron. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuan-Chi. Chapter 265. And the beautiful memories of coming to Earth and the hardships of fighting. Rightward arrow. Sure enough, the two-pronged approach produced immediate results. Optimus Prime's original purple eyes kept flickering and changing. Sometimes the blue light took over, and sometimes the purple light came back. After a few dozen seconds, Optimus Prime's pupils completely returned to blue, and his eyes became brighter. When Yejuju wanted to hit him, he heard Optimus Prime say, "Okay, humans. I'm awake now, no need to hit me anymore. Thanks. And, Bumblebee, you can get up too. I have to admit that I have done something wrong, and I will bow to the senior knights and ask for forgiveness." Yejuju stopped talking, still regretting why Optimus Prime woke up so quickly. To be honest, there are not many opportunities to beat Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots and the Star Transformer in the hearts of countless netizens in his previous life. Bumblebee climbed up happily, not forgetting to reach out and pull up Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime stood up, glanced apologetically at Cade, who looked like a good friend, and walked towards the besieged knight. Yejuju used his mind to inform his mechanical creatures to stop besieging the Night King Kong. Optimus Prime walked to a few knights who were about to take action, knelt down on one knee and said, "I'm sorry. I made a serious mistake and almost destroyed the Earth. Please give me a chance to make amends." Hearing this, the knights surrounding Optimus Prime hesitated for a moment, and their determination to kill Optimus Prime was obviously shaken. Seeing this, Cade was also anxious. He raised the knight's sword that the badge turned into and ran to Optimus Prime. He looked up at Night King Kong and said, "Please give Optimus Prime a chance. He is a good leader. I believe he can lead us to defeat the Decepticons and Quintessa." Seeing the knight's sword again, the knights subconsciously raised their weapons one after another, and chanted one after another like a knight's oath in a language that no one present except the Transformers could understand. Although Yejuju didn't understand it, he knew that these knights were repeating the oath they swore to the 12 knights in the oldest Cybertron language. Looking at Cade, who stood up for him, Optimus Prime said in a deep voice, "Cade, I failed you. I almost destroyed the Earth that I had tried to protect countless times." Having said this, Optimus Prime knelt on one knee on the deck, looked up at the boundless sea around him, and continued, "Earth is the last remaining place in the universe. I can't watch it be destroyed by Quintessa. I will do my best to protect it. Because it is home, it is human beings, the home of the Autobots, their last home." After saying this, Optimus Prime couldn't help but become sad and his head hung down. Yejuju stepped forward and said in a firm voice, "That's why you have to cheer up and lead the Autobots and humans to fight Quintessa. Because Quintessa and the Decepticons are evil, but we are the righteous ones. I believe it." After finishing speaking, Yejuju paused, his extremely confident breath was released, and his volume increased, and he continued, "Justice will eventually defeat evil." After the voice fell, Zui Feng walked up to Yejuju, clenched his right fist and struck on his chest, knelt on one knee in front of Yejuju, and said seriously, "Justice will eventually defeat evil." Later, blue and red clothes and 10 liquid robots also came forward, repeating the action of chasing the wind and saying the same words. Obviously, Zui Feng and the others did not do this voluntarily, but Yejuju deliberately used his mind to make them do this. The purpose? Of course, we have to unite all the forces present and fight Quintessa for the last time. Sure enough, the remaining soldiers including William were immediately infected. After looking at each other, they also clenched their fists and beat their chests, shouting in unison, "Justice will eventually defeat evil." Even though Vivian was a woman, she still had her blood type and stood in front of Yejuju with a firm look on her face. Cade was a little confused and looked at everyone in confusion. When Vivian saw Cade, Optimus Prime, and others, she didn't express anything, and said a little angrily, "Didn't you say you were knights? Where has your chivalry gone? We haven't started a war with Quintessa yet, are you afraid? Has your courage been eaten up by dogs?" Hearing this, Optimus Prime felt a little blocked, as if what he wanted to say was spoken out in advance by Yejuju, which made him feel uncomfortable. Yejuju said again. "Take a look." After speaking, when everyone looked at him, Yejuju raised his finger and pointed at the huge sphere in the sky, and continued. "Cybertron has entered the atmosphere, and we don't have much time left, so why should we hesitate? We're heading to Cybertron. Only by killing Quintessa and his minions, the Decepticons, can the Earth be saved. So, no matter what you think, we humans will fight to the end." Optimus Prime looked at Yejuju angrily, but in the end it was the justice in his heart that kept him from staying out of the matter. Not to mention, for Cybertron to reach Earth so quickly, it was his fault, wasn't it? So, Optimus Prime stood up and said to everyone, "I will never betray you again. I will fully cooperate with humans, take the Autobots back to Cybertron, and kill Quintessa." Hearing this, Yejuju said loudly, "Okay. Then. Next, William, please contact the military and take the troops to Stonehenge by plane, which is the center of Cybertron's landing. I will rush there in advance. Autobots and Knights, please go with me." Hearing this, William nodded heavily and asked the Sign Alman to contact the headquarters to send a plane. At this moment, a huge aircraft flew over. Yejuju looked up and saw the strange shape of the aircraft, and knew that the inspector had come with the Autobots. Since the large army was here, Yejuju did not delay, and put all the mechanical creatures into the space, greeted everyone and the Transformers, and flew into the air, guided by the Red Queen all the way to Stonehenge. The reason why Yejuju was so anxious to go to Stonehenge was that he was thinking about old Edmund and wanted to save him before he provoked Megatron. Seeing Yejuju flying away first, the military plane also came to the sky. Everyone also took action. Kate and Vivian were taken on the plane by William, and the Autobots were also led by Optimus Prime. Those who could fly flew alone, and those who couldn't fly got on the inspector's aircraft. As for the Knights, they merged into 3 mechanical dragons, followed behind the aircraft, and flew to Stonehenge together. It must be said that the Autobots, a Transformer, are naturally weaker than the Decepticons. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 266. Among the Decepticons, except for a few ground troops that cannot fly, the rest can fly in the sky, and the speed is twice the speed of sound. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. On the Autobot side, even Optimus Prime and Bumblebee who can fly cannot reach twice the speed of sound, so they are slower than Yejuju for a long time. At this time, the sky above Stonehenge has been covered by vines hanging from the planet Cybertron. In the center of Stonehenge is Megatron holding a scepter, holding it high to summon a spaceship. He is surrounded by several Decepticons such as Roadblock, Nitrogen Zeus, Mohawk, Attack, Hacker, Berserker, etc. The military has surrounded the open space around Stonehenge. Yejuju, who came from the spaceship, saw that there were many tanks and armored vehicles densely surrounding Stonehenge on the ground. More soldiers were divided into small groups, bending over and marching towards Stonehenge. Among the soldiers, a little old man was leaning on a cane, walking towards the center of Stonehenge step by step as if taking a walk. The short white hair and slightly fat body looked a little funny, but he was the only human who dared to walk to the side of the Decepticons. Seeing that Edmund was still alive, Yejuju in the sky breathed a sigh of relief and said to himself, "Fortunately, I came in time, and the old man is still fine." At this moment, in the distant sky, a spaceship like a huge nail flew quickly towards Stonehenge. Megatron looked up at the flying spaceship and happened to see Yejuju flying in the air. To be honest, Megatron was very surprised at what kind of existence this human was. It was beyond his expectation that even Optimus Prime couldn't beat him, and he could even fly in the air. To be honest, he felt a little uneasy inexplicably. At this moment, Edmund, like in the drama, raised his cane gun and aimed at Megatron and started shooting. The crisp sound of gunfire rang out, and the bullet accurately hit Megatron's cheek, which immediately made Megatron furious. Speaking of which, he had discovered Edmund a long time ago, but he didn't take Edmund seriously. This is also the reason why Edmund, a little old man, can walk to the front of Stonehenge. But such a little old man dared to shoot at him, how could Megatron not be angry? Just when Megatron was about to attack Edmund, the commander of the army, who was ready for war in the distance, said calmly with a communicator in his hand, "Fire!" As the voice fell, the tanks surrounding the Stonehenge all fired at Megatron and several Decepticons who had been aiming at them. With the sound of boom boom boom, the shells fell into the Stonehenge like raindrops, but unfortunately they did not hit the Decepticons. The Decepticons were attacked and responded immediately. Roadblock, Nitrogen Zeus, Mohawk, Attack, Hacker, Berserker and several others immediately rushed out of the Stonehenge, either squatting or standing to fight back. All the soldiers also opened fire at the Decepticons, but unfortunately, although the hit rate was much higher than that of the tank guns, it could not hurt these Decepticons who were all made of steel. On the contrary, the Decepticons' counterattack caused considerable casualties to the army. The first to suffer were the tanks. After all, only they could pose a threat to the Decepticons. And only 1 minute after the war started, half of them were destroyed by the Decepticons. Can you say Edmund is lucky? Sandwiched between the army and the Decepticons, he was still able to stand intact, although he looked a little confused. At this time, Megatron looked down and saw Edmund, and a bullet happened to hit Megatron, causing Megatron's body to shake. The spaceship just happened to hover over the Stonehenge. Megatron knew that the absorption could begin, and he said as he was about to leave, "Poor human, die." As he spoke, Megatron raised his right hand, which had become a weapon, and aimed at Edmund standing on the ground. Seeing that Edmund was about to be killed by Megatron, Yejuju arrived just in time, but he was still a few hundred meters away from both of them. He could burst out instantly and fly in front of Megatron, but he was not so sure whether he could withstand Megatron's shot. After all, it was true that the armor on his body could withstand the attack of bullets, but he had never tried the power of the shells. If a shot penetrated the armor, he would be seriously injured. For his own safety, Yejuju hovered in the air, and his hand immediately turned into a red bow. The bow was opened, and the energy arrow instantly appeared on the bowstring. With a sound of whoosh, the arrow left the string and shot at Megatron's raised right hand in the blink of an eye. With a sound of puff, the arrow hit Megatron's right hand, stopping the shot that Megatron was about to fire. Megatron, who was interrupted, looked up angrily and saw Yejuju rushing towards him. Megatron, who was very unwilling, cursed, "You are lucky, you little human being." After that, Megatron ignored Edmund on the ground and flew towards Cybertron in the sky. Seeing this, the other Decepticons also jumped up and chased after the Decepticons and flew towards Cybertron. Yejuju also landed beside Edmund. Just then, Edmund turned around and said in surprise after seeing Yejuju, "Yeah, you are here." Yejuju was speechless, but he was touched. "Old man, can I say that you are lucky?" But he said, "Well, I'm here. Leave the rest to me." After that, Yejuju grabbed Edmund's arm, flew into the air and sent Edmund to the edge of the army, handed Edmund to the elder and left a sentence. "Elder, take good care of your master." After that, Yejuju saw that everyone had rushed to the front of the Stonehenge. Not far away, Cade, William and others had landed on the ground and were talking to Isabella. Further away, Jamie waved excitedly to Cade, and behind him, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee and other Autobots lined up in a horizontal row, and several knights also ran towards the Stonehenge. At the same time, the system prompt sounded again. "Congratulations to the host for completing the world mission. Wake up Optimus Prime, follow the Autobots to Stonehenge, and get 10,000 experience points. Subsequent world missions are triggered. Defeat the Decepticons, take back the scepter, and destroy Quintessa's conspiracy, and get 30,000 experience points and a special reward. Hearing this, Yejuju was immediately excited. It was not because of the high experience points of the subsequent missions, but because of the special reward that appeared for the first time. Although it is not known yet what the special reward is. But Yejuju is still full of expectations for it. Thinking of the special reward, Yejuju immediately jumped up, landed in front of Stonehenge, and met with everyone. Without waiting for Optimus Prime to speak, Yejuju spoke first. Autobots and knights, and all human soldiers. Today cannot and will not be the end of the Earth. We must save the Earth and its inhabitants, and we must take back the scepter taken away by Quintessa. And the only one who can take back the scepter is Vivian. A side note. Thanks, Taiwan's old book friends for their February votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuan-Chi. Chapter 267. Having said this, Yejuju paused, glanced at all the humans, Autobots, and knights present, and then continued. So, I'm going to take you all in there. Google it and read it. Maybe many of us will die and disappear in the long river of time. But none of your sacrifices will be in vain, and future generations will always be able to tell the legend of our day. Now is our most perfect highlight moment. So, let's go. Behind him, the knights merged together without hesitation, turning into 3 giant dragons and following behind Yejuju. Although the Autobots were all eager to try, they all looked at Optimus Prime. After all, Optimus Prime was their leader. Optimus Prime was speechless. How come every time he wanted to say something, this human would say it first? Thinking so, Optimus Prime still said to the Autobots. The mission of the Autobots is to maintain peace in the universe, so. Autobots, let's go. After saying that, Optimus Prime also stood up and flew straight into the sky. The remaining Autobots also cheered in unison. Those who could fly flew high into the sky alone, and those who couldn't fly also took the inspector's aircraft to fly high into the sky. William took Kate and the 2 of them onto the Osprey fighter, took all the reaction force soldiers, and flew to high altitude. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. In fact, even though Cybertron has arrived on Earth, the core where Quintessa is located is more than 20,000 meters away from the ground. Not to mention Yejuju's flight speed exceeding 2 times the speed of sound, it would not take more than a minute or 2 to fly to the core of Cybertron. After all, there is a huge gap between the resistance of rising and the resistance of parallel flight, and it is not as simple as usual. He is like this, not to mention the Autobots and knights who are far less fast than him. They are even not as fast as the reaction force flying in the Osprey fighter. When flying 10,000 meters high in the sky, Yejuju received a reminder from the Red Queen that the outside of the armor had been hit by a cold wave. However, the armor was very powerful and was not frozen due to the cold wave. Continuing to soar, Yejuju felt no damage to his armor at all, and his breathing was smooth. He even had a feeling that there would be no problem even if he entered space wearing a suit. When Yejuju finally entered the core of Cybertron, Megatron and the others had already entered Quintessa's core and handed the scepter to Quintessa. Quintessa, who was suspended in mid-air, beckoned the scepter from the air, and inserted the scepter into the energy-absorbing device. Suddenly, the electric light on the scepter flashed and began to absorb the energy of the Earth. Quintessa glanced with satisfaction. The absorbing device was running and said to Megatron. Megatron, the absorption device has been activated, and Cybertron is about to return to its former prosperity. and there is only one person who can hurt and stop it? I know she exists, I feel her coming, you can't let her in here, you know that. Upon hearing this, Megatron raised his hands and said arrogantly, my team and I will stop them. They can't even think of entering here. Quintessa nodded with satisfaction, raised her hands and said, then watch our planet recover and watch the Earth be destroyed. Correspondingly, the spacecraft suspended on the ground also began to flash with electricity. The military commander on the ground was shocked to see a visible energy ray being pulled out of Stonehenge, gathered on the spacecraft, and then pulled into the sky and into the high-altitude planet Cybertron. Middle. At the same time, the Ground Monitoring Center also found through instrument monitoring that unknown energy from the Earth is being rapidly extracted. This speed is also very fast. If it is not stopped in time, the energy of the Earth's core will be exhausted within 2 hours. At last, the Earth will explode completely, the sea water and water will be evaporated, and the ozone layer surrounding the Earth will dissipate. Humans and all living things on Earth will die instantly if they are in direct contact with cosmic radiation energy. In other words, the Earth will cease to exist. Such a result immediately made everyone panic. After panicking, scientists are also making urgent calculations, hoping to find a solution to this crisis. At an altitude of 20,000 meters, Yejuju, who had just arrived, had been discovered by Megatron and the others. In order to stop Yejuju, Megatron sent a large number of air defense forces to stop Yejuju. Seeing countless aircraft flying towards him, Yejuju released 10 liquid robots and 10 mechanical drones from the space with a wave of his hand, letting them intercept these aircraft. As soon as the 10 liquid robots and 10 mechanical drones left the space, they were taken over by the Red Queen and fought against Cybertron's aircraft. Both sides were controlled by the brain, and it was impossible to say who had the advantage, but they completely liberated Yejuju. Yejuju also took advantage of this opportunity to forcefully break through the air blockade and landed on the edge of the open space at the core. At the entrance of the passage, Megatron and the Decepticons were guarding here. When he saw Yejuju falling to the ground from a distance, he immediately asked the Decepticons to attack Yejuju. Yejuju, who landed on the ground, did not waste any time and released all the mechanical creatures in the space. In an instant, red and blue clothes appeared beside Yejuju to protect him. 2 wolves were in front, and a pack of more than 30 wolves were guarding the forefront. Finally, it was Yejuju's ultimate weapon, Transformer Chasing Wind. Without Yejuju's order, Red Queen controlled the wolf pack to face the Decepticons. Before the two sides approached, they had a fierce exchange of fire. On the Decepticon side, shells and bullets were densely fired at Yejuju's side. The wolf pack's energy rays spewed out from their mouths, detonating the shells and bullets fired at them halfway. The rest of the shots hit the Decepticons, and holes would appear one by one. Although it was not enough to kill the Decepticons, it could also hinder the Decepticons' actions. Of course, the dense artillery fire still inevitably passed through the rays and hit the wolf pack. And many of the wolf pack were directly hit by shells, and their bodies were damaged. At this moment, 2 werewolves rushed out from behind the wolf pack, the reactor between their necks flashed, and arc pulse waves surged from their necks, knocking away a Decepticon guarding the front. Because the fire on the chest was hit and attacked by external forces, the fire was extinguished instantly and the silicon-based life signs disappeared. In other words, this Decepticon has no effect on Yejuju except that the deformation elements can be extracted from the body. Seeing this, Yejuju immediately reminded Warwolf not to destroy the fire in the Decepticon's body. It is best to behead the Decepticon and preserve the fire in their bodies. Yejuju naturally joined the standing circle. He saw that his hands continuously condensed ice arrows and cones, and he threw them out to help the mechanical creatures reduce the pressure of the battle. It must be said that the firepower of the Decepticon is really not covered. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Da Chuan Chi. Chapter 268. In the past, with the presence of wolves and wolves, even in the Terminator world, facing an army of hundreds of robots, they could kill people to their death. But against the Decepticons, they are not that powerful. At least the wolves cannot form a crushing advantage over the Decepticons. Even with the addition of Yejuju, the two sides were barely evenly matched. At this moment, countless Osprey fighter jets in the sky descended rapidly from the sky, but judging from their posture, they did not land smoothly. Many of them hit the ground diagonally and directly. Yejuju knew at a glance that the Osprey fighter plane was unable to control the landing at an altitude of 20,000 meters and could only choose a hard landing. Fortunately, in the sky, there were 10 liquid metal robots and 10 mechanical drones that intercepted the Decepticon aircraft. The Osprey fighter jets of the reaction force were not blocked by aircraft. They were not intercepted and destroyed by aircraft like in the original drama. There were no additional losses, and almost all of them landed. Soon, these Osprey fighter jets crashed to the ground. Although the fighter jets were more or less damaged, the vast majority of the reaction force soldiers above were not injured. Under the leadership of William, the soldiers who were not injured and could fight immediately rushed out from the damaged cabin door, each found a bunker and joined Yejuju's side to fight against the Decepticons without hesitation. Seeing the human side joining the battle, Megatron played it safe and without hesitation let the Assault Dominator and Cyclone, Explosion, Noisy, and Scam form the combined King Kong Hunchin Leopard. The transformed Hunchin Leopard is still the prototype of a tank, but it is extremely huge. It was countless times larger than the tanks and chariots on Earth, and it gave people a lot of pressure. At this time, his cannon barrel could not only fire cannonballs, but also launch sonic weapons to attack Yejuju and the others. Needless to say, the power of sonic weapons was so powerful that after just a few shots, several wolves on Yejuju's side were destroyed. But the wolves that were destroyed were completely destroyed. Even if Yejuju wanted to repair him, it would be impossible. If he wanted to, he could only create it again. However, Yejuju didn't feel bad about this loss. After all, with the liquid metal robot, the role of the wolves was no longer so important. This wasn't over yet. Megatron still felt that his combat power was not enough, so he asked Quintish's #1 general, the Terror King Kong, to also merge. And it is the largest number of 6 King Kong dolls, combined into the Horror King Kong Daddy. The synthesized Terror King Kong Daddy is even bigger than the Hunchin Leopard. Its size is comparable to a small mountain, comparable to Hercules in Transformers 2, and it has a giant cannon in both hands. The power of the giant cannon can easily destroy a bridge with one shot. There is also a pair of huge horns on the head. If you take a quick look, you will think that it is a Tauran chief from World of Warcraft that has been enlarged countless times. Hunchin Leopard's long-range shooting, coupled with the terrifying King Kong Daddy's ability to engage in both long-range and melee combat, Yejuju's side suddenly fell into passive defense. Seeing this, Yejuju knew that it was not that simple to break through the Decepticon blockade. When Yejuju was thinking about how to break through the Decepticon blockade, scientists on the ground have also developed a way to crack the way Cybertron absorbs the Earth's energy. That is to use the power of the black egg to blow up a vine on Cybertron. With the help of the power of inertia, the tail end hanging from the rattan hits the core of the ground, hoping to destroy the energy-absorbing device at the core in one fell swoop. This interrupts Cybertron's continued absorption of Earth's energy and temporarily solves the Earth's crisis. As for the remaining Transformers on Cybertron, it's not too late to take care of them slowly. Through scientists' explanations and simulation data, the military brass also agreed with their approach. In this way, William and others on Cybertron received new orders from the military. Cooperate with the military fighter jets to mark the appropriate vines with lasers. After the fighter jet carrying the black egg locks on, use a parachute to jump off Cybertron and evacuate safely. After receiving the order, William found Yejuju without any hesitation. He raised his personal computer to show Yejeju and said to Yejeju, "Yeah, there is new news from the ground. There is a way to deal with Cybertron. The military hopes that we will cooperate to complete the mission." Hearing this, Yejeju knew what happened. He sneered at this unreliable plan and looked down upon these trouble-making scientists. Without looking back, he continued to shoot the ice arrows and ice picks condensed in his hands, and said, "Oh, is the military so sure of success? You know, this is not a building or a city, but a planet no smaller than the Earth. Them. Can it guarantee that the core of Cybertron can be destroyed in one fell swoop? This." Hearing this, William was immediately hesitant when asked, and his original confidence could not help but loosen. After thinking about it, William couldn't refute Yejeju, so he passed Yejeju's doubts back to the ground. The military immediately passed Yejeju's doubts to the scientist who proposed the plan. Scientists are not stubborn people. Since they were questioned, they immediately recalculated 3 times before telling the military for sure. The success rate of the plan is as high as 80%. After obtaining accurate data, the military immediately conveyed the order to continue executing the plan to William and others, and issued a death order. Once the target is marked with lasers, all personnel must evacuate Cybertron. After receiving the order again, William came to Yejeju with confidence and repeated the military plan again. This time, not only Yejeju heard it, but also Kate and Vivian, who were hiding behind the ruins. Yejeju still said without looking back, "I don't believe in the plans of those scientists who can only calculate and talk on paper. You can evacuate according to their plans. And I won't leave. I will stay here and fight with the Autobots until I destroy Quintessa's conspiracy." After that, Yejeju took the time to say to Vivian, "Vivian, you can choose to believe me, believe what I say. Their plan will not succeed. You have to stay, wait for me to repel the Decepticons, and then enter the core to take back the scepter. This is the only way to prevent the Earth from being destroyed by Quintessa." Hearing this, Vivian hesitated. To be honest, she believed in Yejeju, much more than she believed in the military and scientists. After all, during the time they spent together, no matter how many secrets Yejeju had known, or how strong and decisive Yejeju was, she was full of confidence in Yejeju. Especially what Yejeju said. Cybertron is not a bridge or a city, but a planet comparable to the Earth. How could it be destroyed by a small black egg? Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 269. Even if the original intention of scientists is just to destroy the absorption device and temporarily solve the problem of energy being extracted from the Earth, the answer will not be so simple and easy. Compared to Vivian, who believed in Yejeju, Cade believed in scientists more. After all, Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The scientists' conclusions after rigorous calculations were far more convincing than what Yejeju said. So, Kai pulled Vivian, who was obviously hesitant, and said, "Vivian, you have to believe in science and big data. Let's evacuate with everyone." Seeing this, William also said, "We have accepted the order and we must resolutely implement it. I still hope that you can evacuate after we complete the mission together, so that you will be safer." After saying that, William immediately asked his men to take out the laser marker and follow the tips given by the scientists to find the vine. Soon, the vine was found and accurately marked. In the distant sky, fighter planes carrying black eggs have already flown in. Seeing this, William immediately pulled Vivian and Cade, who were still hesitating, and rushed towards the edge of Cybertron's core. When everyone was equipped with parachutes and was about to jump off, the Autobots and Knights arrived belatedly. Optimus Prime, who was flying in the air, saw Cade and Vivian evacuating and immediately said, "Cade, Vivian, are you going to leave us? Have you forgotten that we were fighting partners together? Did you forget that the scepter is still in Quintessa's hand?" Yejeju, who was in the battle, naturally heard what Optimus Prime said, so he also shouted, "Vivian, don't forget your ancestor Merlin, he was the one who fought with the Transformers and saved this country. You can too. Stay. You can be like him and save the entire Earth and mankind." Vivian, who was being dragged by Kedra to the edge of the cliff, stopped running when he heard this, pushed Kedra's hand away, and said loudly, "No, Cade. I want to stay and help them get the scepter back." After saying that, Vivian dropped the parachute bag in his hand, turned around and ran towards Yejuju and others. Behind him, Cade shouted Vivian's name loudly, while all the reaction troops around him had jumped off the cliff. Looking at the cliff below him, Cade's face turned ugly. Finally, he gritted his teeth and took off his parachute bag, turned around and ran back. At this time, the fighter plane's black egg had been launched and hit a vine in the distance. After the vines were blown apart, the building hanging from the tip of the vine swayed towards the ground. Unfortunately, although the thing hit the ground hard and hit the core, it did not destroy the core building as expected. At most, it knocked the core building crookedly. Seeing this scene, the scientists who originally saw the vines hitting the core were still cheering fiercely for the success of the plan. The next moment, they all sat down on the ground slumped, and all the scientific researchers involved fell silent. Because, from the information transmitted by the monitor, we know that the Earth's energy is still being extracted rapidly. In other words, the crisis on the Earth is still not resolved. They failed. Yejuju, on the other hand, didn't even look at the outcome and continued to fight with the Decepticons. Vivian and Cade saw this result with their own eyes. Vivian was very happy that she chose to believe Yejuju. Otherwise, after she jumped down, it was not easy to come up again to help Yejuju and the others snatch the scepter. Cade looked at the vines that hit the ground in a daze. He didn't know if he was cursing the scientists for being unreliable. Anyway, his face was very ugly. The Autobots and Night Kongs also immediately joined the battle. The combined three-headed dragon swooped down first and started a hand-to-hand fight with the Terror King Kong Daddy. The three-headed dragon's fighting method is very simple, which is to entangle, scratch, bite, and burn with fire from its mouth. The fighting method of Terror King Kong Daddy is much rougher, with horns, beatings, punches, kicks, and bombardments from the giant cannons on his arms. Anyway, neither side suffered much loss, but it is not that easy to decide the winner. Optimus Prime took the lead and rushed towards the combined Hunchin Leopard while shooting. Just when Optimus Prime rushed to the side of the Hunchin Leopard, the Hunchin Leopard immediately disintegrated and recovered into 5 Decepticons that surrounded Optimus Prime. Perhaps because of Yejuju's existence, the 5 Decepticons did not underestimate Optimus Prime and did not give him the chance to kill the 5 of them with one sword. They actually cooperated with each other and surrounded Optimus Prime, and the fight was evenly matched. At this moment, 10 mechanical drones and 10 liquid metal robots in the sky also successfully annihilated Cybertron's aircraft and flew down to the ground to join the battle. With their addition, the situation was immediately reversed. At least, all our personnel have successfully rushed to the Decepticon position. Yejuju also jumped up and rushed towards the Decepticons on the opposite side. The reason why he was so anxious was because Yejuju knew that with the addition of Autobots and Night King Kong, he would have the opportunity to pick up the missing Transformers bodies. Sure enough, Optimus Prime led people to rush into the Decepticon position, and a giant sword was pulled out from somewhere in his left hand. He easily chopped off the head of a Decepticon blocking the road, although he didn't see which Decepticon was dead. But Yejuju still landed in front of the corpse. Regardless of the consequences, he stretched out his hand to press on the corpse, and put the corpse into the space with a thought. He used the universal furnace to refine the corpse immediately, and obtained the transformation elements and fire seeds and stored them in the space. Behind him, Zhou Feng faithfully guarded Yejuju to pick up the corpse, preventing the cold guns and cold cannons of the Decepticons from hitting Yejuju. After picking up the first Transformer corpse excitedly, Yejuju did not delay, holding the ice knife in his hand, and joined the battle. Yejuju was very cunning. At this time, he would never contact Megatron and several powerful Decepticons first, and specifically looked for those Decepticons with weak strength. This was not the time to show off. Killing enough Decepticons and collecting enough Transformer corpses was what Yejuju wanted to do most. Although in this way, the Autobots will not suffer any loss, and the plan to pick up the Autobot corpses will fail. Yejuju did not care. After all, the Decepticon corpses alone were enough for Yejuju to gain a lot of wealth. Speaking of which, it was also the Decepticons who were unlucky. The weak Decepticons could not fight Yejuju alone, not to mention that Yejuju had Zufeng to help him. Many times, when they were beaten back by the Autobots, Yejuju and Zufeng appeared from nowhere, so how could they survive? After one contact, Yejuju and Zufeng knocked him to the ground, and then Zufeng cut off his head with a knife. Digression. Thanks, MLSMT's 500 reward. Lindong Monogatari's January ticket support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 270. And Zufeng's own strength is not inferior to Bumblebee, and even better. Google search reading. Following Yejuju's 2-on-1 or even 3-on-1, these weak Decepticons are miserable. In just a few minutes, these weak Decepticons were all killed by Yejuju and Zufeng. The transformation element obtained is as big as a basketball, and the fire is 6 clusters of different colors and strengths. The weak Decepticons were solved, and Yejuju turned his attention to the Decepticons who were scattered and besieging Optimus Prime. His intuition told him that killing these Decepticons would bring unexpected benefits. This came directly from the special reward given by the system. Speaking of it, in the Transformers world, what else can be called special existence except the earliest fire source? But the fire source has been completely destroyed and disappeared in the first 3 parts, so in the Transformers world, what else can be called special? After thinking about it, Yejuju only thought of one possibility. That is, transform. King Kong. Combine. Since these Transformers can combine, once he gets the bodies of these Transformers, extracts the transformation elements and fire from them, and gives them to his mechanical creatures. I. Can his mechanical creatures not only become Transformers, but also become combined Transformers? Isn't it impossible? For this reason, Yejuju naturally cares about these 5 Transformers. Even Terror King Kong Dad is on Yejuju's collection list. Seeing Optimus Prime and the 5 Transformers fighting fiercely, Yejuju didn't want to waste time and immediately joined the battle with Zufeng. The ice blade in Yejuju's hand has been replaced with a more convenient sword. With the help of Zufeng's Tang sword, 1 person and 1 pet rushed into the battle group, and confronted the Whirlwind in the 5-man group without any hesitation. The reason why he was chosen was that among the 5 people, the Whirlwind was the smallest in size. After the transformation, it was an armed helicopter, which was the left arm of the combined Hun Tianbao. Yejuju hit it twice, and the Whirlwind was immediately dizzy and it was impossible to fight back. Just look at Zufeng rushing in the front. Although he is more than 3 meters tall, his fighting movements are as flexible as a monkey. He swung away the Whirlwind's slashing knife with a knife, grabbed the Whirlwind's right hand holding the knife with both hands, jumped up and clamped the Whirlwind's neck with his legs, twisted his body to the right, and with the help of gravity, he easily put the Whirlwind on the ground. Yejuju then jumped on the Whirlwind's chest, held the hilt of the sword with both hands, and swung the sword fiercely. With a sizzle sound, Cyclone's neck was cut off by the sword, and Yejuju unceremoniously collected Cyclone's body. While rushing towards Fraud with Zufeng, Yejuju controlled the universal furnace in the space with his mind, melted Cyclone's body to extract the transformation elements and fire, and stored them separately. As soon as Cyclone died, he disappeared strangely again. The 4 remaining members of the 5-member tank group suddenly felt a chill in their hair and fear rose quietly in their hearts. To be honest, they are not afraid of dying in battle, because in the battle between the Decepticons and the Autobots, many Transformers died in battle. But even if they die in battle, as long as the body is still there and the fire has not been completely extinguished, there is a possibility of resurrection. The most representative ones are Optimus Prime and Megatron has the most resurrections. You know, the 5-member tank group is the most relied upon subordinates of Megatron. As long as it is possible, Megatron will definitely resurrect them at all costs. And once the body cannot be found, even if Megatron wants to resurrect them, it will be impossible. Therefore, it would be a lie to say that they were not afraid of the remaining attacks, noise, explosions, and fraud. Fearing, the 4 naturally wanted to escape. Unfortunately, they wanted to escape, but Optimus Prime, who hated them, would not let them go. Yejuju, who coveted their bodies, would not let them go. And with the death of Tornado, they, who could have fought back and forth with Optimus Prime, were no match for Optimus Prime and Yejuju with Yejuju and Zufeng. In addition, the 4 of them all wanted to escape, so they naturally revealed a lot of flaws in the battle, and were naturally beaten by Yejuju and his men, and even lost one thing while focusing on another. Seeing that Fraud was accidentally killed by Yejuju and Zufeng, his body disappeared in the blink of an eye. Explosion, which could transform into an air transport plane, immediately abandoned his 3 good friends and wanted to transform into an air transport plane to escape. Unfortunately, no matter how fast he moved, he couldn't be faster than Optimus Prime, who was 6 meters tall. He just stretched out his hand in time when he jumped into the air and transformed, and grabbed the left foot of Blast, which was still in the air and had not yet completed its transformation. Optimus Prime's strength was not comparable to Blast. Optimus Prime just pulled his left foot to the ground and threw Blast heavily to the ground, interrupting Blast's transformation. Without waiting for Yejuju's order, Zufeng jumped into the air and chopped down fiercely with both hands holding the knife. One knife cut Blast's neck into 2 pieces, and Blast also died after Tornado and Fraud. Yejuju smiled and trotted forward and collected Blast's body. Now, after Tornado and Fraud, another body of the 5-member chariot group was collected by Yejuju in the space. As for the remaining Attack and Noisy, they were just bigger in size but not very powerful. After struggling for a few minutes, Attack was killed by Optimus Prime, and Noisy was killed by Yejuju and Zufeng. Looking at Optimus Prime, who had turned the bodies of Attack and Noisy into nothing, he was afraid of Yejuju, but he couldn't help asking, "Human, where did you take their bodies?" In fact, he wanted to ask Yejuju directly if there was any other intention in collecting the bodies of Transformers. For example, a long time ago, KSI Company created a lot of artificial Transformers by hunting Transformers and collecting transformation elements, which brought a lot of trouble to the Autobots. As the saying goes, we must be on guard against the lessons of the past. When asked by Optimus Prime, Yejuju laughed and said, "Haha. That. I sent their bodies into the vast universe. Haha." After hearing Yejuju's obviously fooling words, Optimus Prime frowned tightly, but he couldn't do anything about Yejuju for the time being. After all, Yejuju was on their side, and it was not suitable to have a conflict with Yejuju during the fierce battle with the Decepticons. But Optimus Prime had to take precautions in advance, so he said to Yejuju seriously, "I cannot pursue your actions of collecting the bodies of the Decepticons, but I warn you that you can't do anything with their bodies that endangers the safety of the universe, otherwise we Autobots will definitely hunt you down, understand?" Across the heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 271. After saying that, Optimus Prime looked meaningfully at Zufeng, who was standing next to Yejuju like a loyal guard without saying a word. Google search reading. In fact, Optimus Prime had noticed Zufeng a long time ago. Google searched Can. Although Zufeng is also a member of the Transformers, Optimus Prime has confirmed through scanning that Zufeng's manufacturing technology is not from the planet Cybertron at all. Seeing Optimus Prime notice Zufeng, Yejuju keenly realized that Optimus Prime seemed to know something. However, Yejuju was not worried at all about what Optimus Prime would do to him, and nodded and said, "Okay, I promise." After saying that, he ignored Optimus Prime and continued to pick up the bodies of the Decepticons with Zufeng. Optimus Prime looked at Yejuju, who was leaving, and couldn't help but remind him, "Don't touch the bodies of our Autobot warriors." Hearing this, Yejuju paused, stretched out his hand without looking back and made an OK gesture, and continued to collect the dead Decepticon bodies. Of course, since Optimus Prime warned him of his little trick of picking up the corpses, Yejuju could only give up the plan of collecting the Autobot corpses. After all, they were all comrades in arms. If he lost the corpses of his comrades in arms, he would offend everyone, wouldn't he? But why did Yejuju want to go forward when he saw the corpse of an Autobot who died in the distance? At this time, the battlefield had changed from in front of the passage to inside the passage. The only Decepticons left alive were Megatron, Roadhog, Mohawk, Hacker, and the Terror King Kong Dad, who was still fighting the three-headed dragon. Yejuju did not chase into the passage immediately. Anyway, he knew the ending. The scepter would be pulled out by Vivian, and the crisis on Earth would be resolved in the end. As for whether to kill Quintessa, Yejuju was not worried at all, because the mission did not require him to kill Quintessa, but to destroy Quintessa's conspiracy. And the final ending was the crash of Cybertron, and Quintessa disappeared through instant teleportation. In this case, why didn't he take this opportunity to collect the body of Horror King Kong Dad into the space? At this time, the three-headed dragon and Horror King Kong Dad were fighting fiercely, and the two giant King Kongs were not able to display their power around them. The earth slopes and buildings on the ground were destroyed by the two King Kongs, and the dust was raised half a sky high. Looking at the appearance of the two King Kongs at this time, the three-headed dragon's body was full of large and small cracks, and it was obviously seriously injured. And there were countless cracks on the body of Horror King Kong Dad, and even one of the sharp horns on his head was broken. But obviously, the three-headed dragon was at a disadvantage. After all, the size of Horror King Kong Dad was there, and its defense was a little stronger than that of the three-headed dragon. Seeing that the three-headed dragon was at a disadvantage, to be honest, Yejuju thought dirty, if the three-headed dragon also died in the battle, would he get his own mechanical three-headed dragon? Optimus Prime was just warning himself not to attack the Autobots' bodies, but he didn't tell him not to attack the Night King Kong's body. He saw the three-headed dragon being grabbed by the head by Terror King Kong Daddy, pulled out of his body and thrown dozens of meters away. It fell all the way to the ground, even leaving deep grooves on the ground. But in the end, it did not fall apart and die, but stood up from the ground, flapping its steel wings and roaring at Terror King Kong Daddy dozens of meters away. It was obviously just seriously injured but not dead. Seeing that all the Autobots and Decepticons had entered the passage, Yejuju knew that he could not continue to watch. After all, when Vivian and the others got the scepter and Quintessa disappeared, who knows if she would take Terror King Kong Daddy with her. You know, when Quintessa disappeared in the play, Megatron and his men, except for the dead, all disappeared. Although it was not explained in the play whether they were taken away by Quintasha, Yejuju did not want to gamble, and it was more important to kill the Terror King Kong Dad while there was still time to get the benefits. So, in order to prevent such a situation from happening, Yejuju and Zufeng moved. At this time, Yejuju had switched to the ice knife. After all, the size and defense of the Terror King Kong Dad were there, and it was impossible to kill him with the nano sword in his hand. But with the special effect of the ice knife's continuous freezing, Yejuju was still sure to kill him in the end. So, a scene that made the Terror King Kong Dad feel funny and angry appeared. A small transformer who was only 3 meters tall and a small human who looked like a bean, actually rushed to his feet to seek death. Terror King Kong Dad roared, raised his foot and stepped heavily on Yejuju and Zufeng. I thought my feet were several meters wide, and the two little guys were not trampled into slag by me in one step. But he never expected that his foot would only create a deep pit on the ground and raise a large amount of dust. The two little guys he looked down on, however, separated from each other and rolled flexibly a few times to escape from his stepping range the moment he stepped on them. At this time, the little human was waving the strange double knives in his hands and slashing at his calves. There were continuous muffled sounds of bang bang bang, which did not sound like the sound of metal weapons at all. The three-headed dragon in the distance looked at Yejuju and Zufeng, challenging Terror King Kong Dad without knowing their own strength, and felt that his worldview was abnormal. Compared with the two, Terror King Kong Dad was the difference between a giant and an ant, but the two did it. How could he not doubt his life? Also doubting their lives were the fighter pilots flying back and forth in the air, and everyone who saw the scene through the screen. In fact, since the failure of dropping the Black Egg, the military has been sending fighter planes to film the battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons. And Yejuju is a human who can't be any smaller, and the battle scene is so chaotic that they are naturally no longer in their attention. Even when Yejuju and Optimus Prime later fought against the 5-man tank team together, they were blocked by the tall Optimus Prime. At this time, only Terror King Kong Dad and Yejuju were left on the platform with one person and one mount, and they stood out. It was impossible for them not to pay attention to Yejuju. The battle was still going on, but the two-handed cannon of Terror King Kong Dad became a decoration at this time. After all, Yejuju's height and size made it difficult to aim even if he wanted to. This is like using an anti-aircraft gun to shoot a mosquito. Isn't it a waste of talent? The key is that he can't hit it. He can't aim at his feet, right? He is also afraid that the platform will be blasted through with one shot, and he will fall to the ground and die handsomely. Are you kidding? This is 20,000 meters in the air. Without any protective measures, even if he is made of steel, he is afraid of being smashed into a pile of scrap metal.